Hello student, welcome back to the science class once again. Thank you for watching the previous videos and an additional thank you for staying home. So in the last video, I have discussed about suspension. We got to know about suspension. So let us do a quick revision on suspension and then we are going to do a new topic today. So what was this suspension? A suspension is a heterogeneous mixture in which the solute particle do not dissolve in the solvent but remains suspended throughout the bulk of the medium. An example of suspension is salt mixed with water. Salt will never dissolve in water. Okay, that's why it is a heterogeneous mixture. And when you left the heterogeneous mixture undisturbed, then what will happen? The salt particle will settle down in the bottom. So this is what we discussed about suspension. So today we are going to discuss about another heterogeneous mixture, that is colloidal solution. Okay. So let us start with the definition of colloidal solution. What is this colloidal solution? Its another name is colloidal. Let me write it COLLOID. Okay. You can call this colloidal solution as a colloid. So what is a colloidal solution? A colloid or a colloidal solution is a heterogeneous mixture whose particles are not as small as solution, but they are so small that cannot be seen by the naked eye. That means what? A colloidal solution or a colloid, it is a heterogeneous mixture whose particles are not as small as the particles of solution are. Okay, means they dissolve in the solvent, but those particles are big enough to scatter the beam of light. Okay, the particles of colloid, they are small, but they are not as small as the particles of a solution are. Okay, that's the reason why they are categorized as a heterogeneous mixture, because though the particles cannot be seen by the naked eye, that means the particles of colloid, though they cannot be seen by the naked eye, but they show most of the properties of heterogeneous mixture. So let us go to the definition once again. A colloid is a heterogeneous mixture whose particles are not as small as a solution, but they are so small that cannot be seen by the naked eye. So this is the definition of a colloid or a colloidal solution. Okay, an example of colloidal solution is milk. Now, if I would ask you a question, is milk a clear solution? Is milk clear? The answer is definitely no. Milk is not clear. But do you think milk is a suspension? Can you see the particles of milk? The particles of milk cannot be seen by our naked eye. Right? Now, let me ask you one thing. If you try to pass light through milk, do you think the ray of light will pass thoroughly, just as we discussed in solution? If you try to pass the light rays through a solution, then the light rays will pass thoroughly. Right? Light rays will pass very nicely through a solution. Means there will be no any scattering and all. But do you think it is going to happen the similar one with milk? Definitely not. What will happen if you try to pass light through a colloid? That means if you try to pass light through milk, then what will happen? The particles of this particular colloid, that means the particles present in the milk, they will scatter the beam of light. Okay, this is the main reason why milk is categorized as a colloid, and this reason is enough to indicate a colloid is a heterogeneous mixture. Okay, so let us see the properties of a colloid. It is a heterogeneous mixture. A colloid is a heterogeneous mixture, right? The size of the particles are too small to be individually seen by the naked eye. That means the particles are so small that it cannot be seen by our naked eye. But in suspension, what did we find? We could see the particles of a colloid. In suspension, we could see the particles of solute, right? The next one, the particles of colloid are big enough to scatter a beam of light passing through it. The particles of colloid are too big to pass a beam of light passing through it. Understood? That means the particles of colloid, a colloid shows the scattering of light. If you try to pass light through a colloid, the particles of colloid, okay, they will scatter the beam of light. Then the next one is the particles of colloid do not settle down when left undisturbed. That is, a colloid is quite stable. It's not like suspension. A suspension and a colloid both are heterogeneous mixture. But what is the difference? A suspension is not a stable one. The particles of suspension settles down when it is left undisturbed. But the particles of colloid will never settle down when it is left undisturbed. Have you ever found the particles of milk used to settle down when it is left undisturbed? Definitely no. Okay, so the case is similar in all the colloids. The particles of colloid never settles down when it is left undisturbed. Clear? So next, a colloid consists of two components. Just like a solution has two components, one is solute, another one is solvent. Similar to that, a colloid also has two components. One is a dispersed phase, another one is a dispersive medium. Now, which one is the dispersed phase and which one is the dispersing medium? The solute-like components, which you have studied in solution. That solute-like components have a name, have a different name in this colloid. They will be called as a dispersed phase. And the solvent, that means the dispersed phase are suspended in a particular medium. The medium in which the dispersed phase is suspended is called as a dispersing medium. In short, if you want to understand about, or if you want to remember about dispersed phase and dispersing medium, then remember that the solute which you have studied in solution, its name is dispersed phase in colloid. And the solvent which you have studied in solution, its name is dispersing medium in a colloid. I hope you all have understood about colloid very well. Remember, a colloid and suspension both are heterogeneous mixture, but the difference is what? In a suspension, the particles are big enough to be seen by our naked eye, but in a colloidal solution, the particles are very, very small, which cannot be seen by our naked eye. A suspension is very highly unstable, whereas a colloid is stable. These are the differences between suspension and a colloidal solution. In the next video, we are going to discuss about physical changes and chemical changes, and we will be discussing about element, compounds and mixture. Till then, stay safe. Thank you.